What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with another top 10 teams in the NFL, this time entering week number 5 of the 2019 NFL season. Now we are a quarter of the way through this NFL season. We're starting to get a handle of these teams. Typically, we kind of know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. This season, in 2019, we have no idea. I mean, there's so many teams that are 2-2. There's such a big landscape full of average teams in the NFL. There are some good teams. It's very limited, though. And there are some bad teams. That's also very limited. Most of the NFL right now, pretty average, pretty mediocre, pretty much the same, which makes this top 10 very difficult to choose, to pick, and to order. So, help me out in the comment section below. Let me know who you guys have in your top 10 and why. Which teams do you see as the elite ones in the NFL? Which teams do you see as dark horse teams right now in the NFL? And any that are not in your top 10 but you're looking to be in the top 10 very soon, let me know in the comment section below. Usually a quarter of the way throughout the season, we kind of get a feeling for it, but also the quarter way through the season, it's kind of like the extended preseason these first 4 weeks. And teams are starting to get an understanding of their roster, of their talent, how to scheme for this talent, how to scheme for their roster, which players are going to be key in which roles. And for some of the better coaches in the league, this is where you see them take a handle on their football team and push forward with a better effort. So the teams that have better coaching are going to see better progress going forward because they're able to create better game plans with more film and more information on their opponents. With that being said, let's get into my top 10. But first, make sure that you guys subscribe to the Bottom Line View if you are new. And if you're new, I do NFL videos basically every day here on the Bottom Line View. I do top 10s, I do analysis videos, all that and more. So make sure that you subscribe to the Bottom Line View. All right, let's get into my top 10, starting off with one of the 3 NFC North teams within my top 10. That is the Chicago Bears. The thing that I want to point out about the Bears is this team for the last 2 seasons has been about the defense. Even with Matt Nagy and a high draft pick in Mitch Trubisky, this team's foundation identity has been about their defense. And a lot of people wondered what would happen to this defense with Vic Fangio gone. Him taking that head coaching job in Denver. What would happen to this defense? Well, nothing has happened. This defense is still elite. And maybe it's not the best defense right now in the NFL, but it's certainly in the top 3. It's playing lights out. It dominated versus Minnesota this past week, and the reason why they won that game. Now Mitch Trubisky is out. The defense is going to have to take an even bigger load, even though it does feel like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, whether it's Chase Daniel, Mitch Trubisky. This team is not all that different. Actually, you do see an improvement from Matt Nagy in terms of play calling when Daniel is at quarterback, because it just seems like, at least there's rumors out there, that Daniel is able to take a little bit more of the offense in. He understands the offense a little bit better. And while you're surrendering some of that big play potential with Trubisky that you don't get with Daniel, you're also allowing a bigger repertoire to your offense in general, whether that's running the football, passing the football. So even though Trubisky is not there, I don't feel that this really hurts this team. It speaks to the strength of their supporting cast, both defensively and a little bit offensively as well. And the thing I have liked about what Nagy's doing offensively is he is getting the football to their best playmakers. Whether that's Montgomery or it's Allen Robinson, these guys are the guys that are targeted the most, getting the most touches, and that's positive for the Bears going forward. I would like to see the Bears play well versus teams outside of their division, but you can only really get what you have on your schedule. So that being said, let's move on to another team within the NFC North, and that is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, for the first time this season, make it to the top 10, and I've been a big fan and big supporter of the Lions over the past offseason or so, and I think the Lions have put their plan in place of what the football team they really want to be, what type of team they want to be in 2019, and we've seen that on the field thus far. Matt Patricia wants to be a power football team. He wants to establish the run. He wants to be able to stop the run. He wants to have big people up front on offense and defense, and you add a Matt Stafford who's playing lights out this season so far, a couple playmakers like Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones to the mix, and you have a team that is not only a dark horse for the playoffs, but definitely in the playoff mix and in the mix to win this division. We saw them go against Kansas City. It was at home, but still, versus an elite team in the NFL, a top 3 team in the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs. They played them absolutely to the wire, and I would say they were the better team on that field, and I would say they deserved to win that football game, and they outplayed Kansas City. They didn't have Darius Slay, yet their defense still played pretty well, and offensively, they picked apart Kansas City through the air and on the ground in really a game that just impressed a lot of people, because sometimes the Lions, like in past years, will look good versus bad teams, but then they won't show up versus good teams. And it was nice to see that Matt Patricia was able to put together a defensive game plan that was good. Their offense was able to move the ball, and it just seemed like they have it this year, and they know what they want to be, and they have that identity, which is key to being a good football team. And if Matt Stafford continues to play this well, this team definitely has and will be in the conversation to win the NFC North. So I have the Detroit Lions here at number 9, and even though it was a loss, I am finally 100% convinced that this team can fully compete within this division, not just for a wild card spot, which I thought before, but for the division title. All right, let's get to the Seattle Seahawks. They are at number 8 on my list. The Seahawks had a disappointing game versus the Saints in a game where many people believed that they would win that game. It was at home. They were favored. It was the first week with Teddy Bridgewater instead of Drew Brees, and the Seahawks were looking good through the first couple weeks of the season. The Seahawks then, after that disappointing loss, come back with a really nice victory. Typically versus the Cardinals, the Seahawks are not very good. Typically versus the Cardinals, they actually play that team very closely. And no matter how good the Seahawks are, no matter how bad the Cardinals are, it just seems like that game's always close. So it was nice to see that the Seahawks were able to go to Arizona and able to outplay them, fully dominate that game on both sides of the football, and we finally saw that the Seahawks were actually able to change a little bit. We saw that the Seahawks, they're throwing on first down. They're allowing their offense to be set up in good situations, whether that's Chris Carson being set up with some throws out of the backfield to get the offense going a little bit more, being less predictable in their play calling. It was really nice to see that. 26 touches for Chris Carson versus Arizona. He had one heck of a game. Will Dissly continues to perform at a very high level at the tight end position, and they just seem to have enough weapons on offense to get it done each and every week, to be able to score each and every week. Their defense is still a question mark to me, but they do have the coaching on their side. They are changing their defense a lot more than we've seen in years past. They've kind of changed from a cover 3 press bail scheme that they had for a very long time, known as the Seattle defense, to a little bit more mixing it up with different zones and more man-to-man coverage. So the Seahawks, their coaching is evolving. They're staying ahead of the times right now, and their team is performing at a good level. So I feel like the Seahawks, they're definitely in the conversation for the NFC wild card position right now, and potentially even the NFC West crown. All right, they are my number 8 team. At number 7, I have the Green Bay Packers. I told you I was going to have 3 teams in the NFC North. None of them are within the top 5, but the Packers do deserve to be somewhere, and I believe the highest on this list out of all NFC North teams. Now, the Packers did lose a disappointing game on Thursday Night Football versus Philadelphia. It was an unexpected loss, so to speak, but so far this season, they have done one thing that has been impressive. They've dominated the best division in football. They already have victories over Minnesota and Chicago. They've yet to play Detroit, which has been a difficult matchup for them within the past year or so, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that game. The Packers, I think there was some good and there was some bad versus Philadelphia on Thursday night. Okay, so their defense took a step backward. We knew it was going to take a step backward eventually. They probably played the best offense they played all year. They weren't really able to cover the same way. They weren't getting the same pass rush. And they were definitely not looking good in terms of stopping the run game, which is going to be a big question going against Dallas this week. Will they be able to revamp, retool, and be able to stop the run versus Dallas? Because if they're not, then they're not going to win that game. At the same time, though, Aaron Rodgers does have Jason Garrett's Cowboys number, so we'll see if that comes in handy in any way this week. But that's an excellent matchup, and I kind of want to see where both teams are at in that matchup. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers and the offense, I like what I saw mostly from the offense. It did seem to struggle without Devontae Adams, though, down the stretch. When they really needed to play, they weren't able to get it. Valdes-Scantling, he can step up, hopefully. This is a time for Geronimo Allison to step up, for somebody to step up. Jimmy Graham has had a surprisingly decent season so far. But now that Adams is banged up, he's potentially missing this game versus Dallas. This is the time you want one of those other receivers to step up so that you can finally figure out who that number 2 option in the passing game is going to be. This is something that has hurt the Packers all season so far, and they need to establish that pecking order and that chemistry with their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. We'll see if it works out. I think Valdes-Scantling would be the guy that if I had to pick or I had to choose, that would be the guy. But Allison does already have that built-in chemistry with Rodgers. We'll have to see how it shakes up. I have the Packers here at number 7. At number 6, I have the LA Rams. They move out of the top 5 for me because some of those concerns I had about the Rams finally showed up in that game versus Tampa Bay. So I was kind of quick to take them out of the top 5, but I do have my reasoning. So for the Rams, their run game has not been nearly the same. Todd Gurley has not been nearly the same. The offensive line has not been nearly the same. And the offensive line, quite honestly, it's scaring me. Whether that's pass protection or especially run blocking, they're not able to get any push. They're not able to scheme up the way they have because teams have them on tape and teams have seen what they love to do in the run game, and they're starting to take that away. And it just seems like without that run game, this offense isn't nearly as effective. Now, I will say Jared Goff was able to take control of that game versus Tampa Bay and have an excellent game. I really thought he played well. I really thought he made some excellent throws. And I'm not the biggest Rams Jared Goff supporter. You guys know this, specifically with Jared Goff. I have never really said Jared Goff is an elite quarterback. I still don't think he is, but he's made a lot of nice throws in that game and was able to kind of get them back into it and was the reason why and carried that offense, honestly. So then looking at the defense, I feel like the defense was finally exposed for the first time this season. Tampa Bay put together a really good game plan, was exposing their zone coverages, was blocking well up front, and it seems like if the Rams aren't able to get that instant pass rush with Aaron Donald, Dante Fowler, who's playing very well this year, they are not going to be successful on defense. Now, defensively, they've played a ton of zone, I would say more than anybody this season. I think they need to play a little bit more man-to-man, kind of mix it in there a little bit more, and I do think that teams have started to figure out, at least Tampa Bay did, that if you keep them in their base defense, adding those extra linebackers on the field, that will hurt them in the long run, and you'll be able to take advantage of some mismatches in the passing game. But in their sub-defense, the Rams are very, very good because they have the defensive backs, the speed to be able to get it done. So I want to see how the Rams adjust to how these teams are attacking them, specifically how Tampa Bay did, and how they go forward. But like I said at the beginning of this video, the Rams are going to be one of those teams who they stick around and they continue to get better and they continue to tweak their roster and their scheme because they understand, they have good coaching and they understand how to get better and how to scheme and how to fix and basically self-scout their own roster. So at number 6, I do have the Rams, moving them backward, but I could still see them being a top 5 team by the end of this season. At number 5, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Might be shocking to some people, but I believed in the 49ers for all offseason, and I continue to believe into them to this day. And the 49ers are undefeated. They're one of 3 teams that are undefeated, and they do deserve the respect. The reason why I do give the 49ers the respect so far this season, they're just getting started. I think they've had games, specifically versus Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, where they've won those games basically because of talent and because of coaching, but not necessarily because they've played well with good execution. I mean, their execution at times has been pretty horrendous. They've turned the football over. They've been put in bad position, but they've still been able to win those games, which speaks to how good of a team they are. When you look at them statistically, they're fourth offensively, they're second in rushing, they're third in defense yardage-wise, and they're top 6 in both pass and run defense. So this is a complete football team, and if their offense can get better, continue to take strides forward, if they can get Dante Pettis rolling, who he scored the game-winning touchdown their last game, and if Jimmy can continue to get better, which I believe he will, this offense will be a top elite unit, and that defense, the way they're playing, this is a very well-rounded team, and I think you should stop sleeping on the 49ers. All right, at number 4, I have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys moved back one spot in my rankings just because they lost to the New Orleans Saints, and I was not really impressed with what I saw for the most part. I still think their defense is fantastic. I still think they have one of the best defenses in the league. The offense, though, it seemed to be missing that big play element of Michael Gallup, who's been injured now. I think once he comes back, that will be a big boost. Their offensive line wasn't as great. It didn't dominate the way it did the first few weeks, and we didn't really see the running game take shape. I mean, it was a difficult matchup. It is a difficult matchup for the Cowboys versus the Saints from an offense to defense perspective, but their offense was rolling the first few weeks, and we just expected them to go in there and win that game. But now, because they lost it, we have to kind of reevaluate. Was it their schedule that made them look that good? They played some weak opponents, or was it just those teams that aren't very good that they played against? Maybe the Saints are just that good. Maybe that was just a really tight matchup. It's hard to know. So going forward, I still love the Cowboys. I still think they're probably the favorite in the NFC. They're third in yards defensively. They're 7th offensively. And with all the weapons there, they are an explosive offense. But I do want to see them be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively. I do need to see someone in the receiving game step up as that number 2 option, even with Gallup out. I need to see the depth there, and it's just not there right now. And I need to see that defense to continue to perform, but they have been. So at number 4, I have the Cowboys. Not too worried about their loss, but I will say it was disappointing. At number 3, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, even without Drew Brees, have been super impressive. And the impressive part about the Saints so far this season is their physical football. They have stepped up defensively, specifically their defensive front. Their defensive front is big. Malcolm Brown's playing fantastic. Cameron Jordan's playing great. I just feel like these guys they're stopping the run at an elite level. Their secondary is still a weakness, but I feel like they're getting away with it because they're getting pressure, they're stopping the run, they're being put in good 3rd and long situations to be able to cover more easily, and that's helping their defense. Offensively, Sean Payton's a genius. He's going to put Kamara in good situations. He's going to put Michael Thomas in good situations. And no matter the quarterback, Teddy's able to manage the game, and he's not going to make too many mistakes. Their offensive line is also incredible and arguably the best in the game. So with the way they're dominating the front on both sides of the ball, that's going to put them in a good situation with any quarterback. So I really like the Saints and the way they're playing right now. At number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, even when they play poorly, this is a sign of a good team. They win. They're so explosive offensively that they can score with any amount of plays in a drive, and they can score instantly, and they just keep you on your toes. When looking at the Chiefs, they are going to be so incredibly difficult to play against offensively when they have all their weapons. With Tyreek Hill back, how are you going to cover the speed of Hill, Hardman, and even a Robinson out there? And then you throw in Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce. That's going to be, for any team that's basically not named the Patriots, and even for the Patriots, that's going to be very difficult to stop. So the Chiefs are just so extremely explosive with Mahomes at the helm and Andy Reid coaching that it's going to be very difficult for any team to beat them. And then defensively, They didn't play very well versus the Lions. They need to figure out a way to be better versus the run. If they can do that, they can take an element away from their opponents where it's not allowing their opponent to control the clock and play their pace of game, which is what kept the Lions in the game last game. If they're able to stop the run better, which is the one flaw I prefer to fix, then they'll be in way better shape. Because even if they suck versus the pass, if they're stopping the run and in 3rd and longs with a good pass rush, which they have, then there's not as many worries. So the Chiefs, they still do have those defensive flaws, but when they're at full strength offensively, they're pretty much impossible to stop. At number 1, it's the New England Patriots still. Yes, they had a tight, close game versus Buffalo, but what was impressive about New England is that they've proven that they are an all-around football team, the best all-around team in football right now, with the best defense in football. Again, a defense that continued to shine. I think they had 4 interceptions last game. They had a blocked punt. They shut down Buffalo in the biggest moments of that game to win it, and they're just a complete team. I mean, one game offensively, they're going to play great. One game defensively, they're going to play great. One game, the special teams is going to contribute. They can do everything. And then when you look at their defense, which is going on to be a historic unit if they continue the pace of play, 1st in yards, 1st in points, 1st in 3rd down defense, most sacks, most 3-and-outs, the most interceptions. This defense is playing at an all-time great level, and if they can continue to get that out of this fantastic defense, then that offense doesn't even have to be in the top 10, which it probably will be regardless, even if they struggle to play versus Buffalo for some reason, even though Buffalo's defense is great, which, by the way, Buffalo was my honorable mention for this week. Guys, that is my top 10. The New England Patriots remain at number 1. A couple of new teams added to the mix with the Bears and the Lions. And the 49ers shoot up into the top 5. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of my top 10. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button. And also, subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this. Thanks for watching. Peace out.